Hello guys, I start this lecture with asking you a few questions. The questions are, do you like inorganic chemistry or not? Are you afraid of inorganic chemistry or not? Are you scoring well in your examinations in organic? Well, if your answers are that you are afraid of inorganic, you do not like inorganic, or you are not scoring well in your inorganic chemistry section, well, we at H2O, the A to Z of chemistry, are picking up a full course which is going to be known as Inorganic Made Easy. So in this course, we are going to put up lectures where we are going to give you lots many tricks to learn your concepts very well. Alright, and learning with tricks is going to make the understanding more interesting. So you are going to find learning inorganic in a very easy way. Along with that, there are going to be certain concepts which require, rather than just the mugging them up, some understanding. And you are doing only the mugging up, not understanding the concept. So we are going to give you all that understanding. We are going to give you all the tricks to make inorganic very easy for you, very interesting for you. So in this course, the lecture that we are going to have today, as you have seen the title also, is going to be oxoacids of phosphorus. In the oxoacids of phosphorus, what is asked generally in the examination is that you will be given a particular formula. You have to write the name of the compound, or the name of the compound is given to you and you have to write the formula, or you have to write the structures for these oxoacids, or what is going to be given is that you have to find out some property related questions of these. So these are the general questions which are asked. In the next lecture, after you have learned everything in today's lecture, well, I am going to even give you the previous year JEE and NEET questions from this topic so that you can see those questions, attempt those questions after learning the concepts today, and you are going to find them really very easy. Okay, so we are going to learn about the naming of the oxoacids of phosphorus today. We are going to learn about the writing of the structures of these oxoacids. Then we are going to learn about even the preparation of these, the properties of these, the uses of this. It is going to be a complete lecture on oxoacids of phosphorus, and in a very interesting way. Trust me, please watch it completely. Okay, so I am Dr. Ritu Johar, your educator from the channel H2O, the A to Z of chemistry, and I hope you're going to enjoy your learning with me, and let us begin. So let us start the learning with understanding the term oxoacids first of all. So oxoacids, these are also called as oxyacids, and as the name suggests, it is going to be oxygen containing acids. So what is the definition for these compounds? Well, these are going to be those compounds which contain hydrogen, oxygen, and at least one more element which is going to form a bond with the OH group. So the simplest oxoacid which we can have is going to be ZOH, where Z is going to be any other element apart from oxygen and hydrogen. Now, why is this OH group so very important? Because oxygen is highly electronegative and hydrogen, this is going to be electropositive. So this bond can break very easily. Why do we need to break this bond? Well, we need to break this bond. We need to dissociate this to produce H ions, which are responsible for the acidic characters of a compound. So these compounds in solution, they are going to produce H ions and the corresponding anion of the acid. So what we will be getting is ZOH on dissociation producing HZO negative and H positive. What is the general formula for these compounds? Well, the general formula is going to be HXZYOZ. So all the three elements, hydrogen, the Z element, which can be any element, as you will be seeing the examples which elements can form oxoacids, and we can have oxygen to be in varying numbers. All right. Now, which are the elements which can form these oxoacids? So I'm going to give you a few common elements which form oxoacids, and along with that I'm going to give their highest oxidation number. Why the highest oxidation number? Just now I'll tell you. So the common elements which form these oxo acids, these are the p block elements. Generally these are non-metals which are forming these oxo acids, but this does not mean that these are the only compounds that the elements which form oxo acids. D block elements, for example, manganese, chromium, these do form oxo acids as well. Here we are just talking about the common ones, the common P block elements which form these oxo acids, which are very importantly asked in the examination. Alright, so we have boron, carbon, silicon, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, chlorine, bromine, iodine being the common elements which form oxo acids. Now, why have I listed the highest oxidation number? Because these elements, they can show variable oxidation states. For example, if I talk about nitrogen, nitrogen can show an oxidation state from -3 to +5. And in these oxidation states, well, these elements, they form a number of oxo acids. And for naming these compounds, writing the structures of these compounds, you should have a knowledge, first of all, of the highest oxidation number. Alright, now the highest oxidation number is going to be which for these elements? It is going to be equal to the number of valence electrons for these elements. For example, boron, this is what group? This is 13th group of the periodic table. So 13 minus 10 for the D block elements, you are going to get 13 minus 10 to be 3. So boron, this has 3 valence electrons and it is going to have the highest oxidation number to be +3. Similarly, the carbon family, group 14 minus 10, 4 valence electrons, highest oxidation number is going to be +4. Similarly, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, 15 minus 10 would be 5. So highest oxidation state is 5. For the oxygen family, it is going to be 6. And for the halogens, it is going to be 7. So these are the highest oxidation states for these elements. And these are the common elements which form oxo acids. Now, how do we name these compounds? Now, one thing that you have to understand is why we are learning the naming of these oxo acids. Well, it is because, first of all, as we've just now talked about, is that the elements which are forming oxo acids, they can have variable oxidation states. So according to those oxidation states, they can form a different type of oxo acid. Other thing is that these elements, hydrogen, oxygen and the Z element, they can be varying in number, and with the difference in the number of those, well, we are going to have different oxo acids. So because of that, it is very, very important that you learn the correct way in which these oxo acids, they are named. Alright, so for that, what you have to learn is that we are going to use certain suffixes and prefixes in the naming of these oxo acids. And first of all, essentially we have two types of parent acids whenever we are naming the oxo acids. The parent acids, these are called as the ic acid and the us acid. For example, we have HNO3 to be called as nitric acid and HNO2 to be called as nitrous acid. So this is ic acid of nitrogen and this is us acid of nitrogen. In both the acids, you can see that we have hydrogen, nitrogen and oxygen. So naming them differently was required. Now, why is HNO3 called as ic acid and this as us acid? Why not the opposite way? For that, what you have to find out is the oxidation state for these elements in the two acids. So in HNO3, what you will be saying is that when we are going to find out the oxidation state of nitrogen is +1 for hydrogen, plus X for nitrogen, we have to find it out, and oxygen, this has the oxidation state of -2, so 3 into -2. So this will be -6 plus 1 and it will come up as +5. And on the other hand, for HNO2, what you can see is that the oxidation state of nitrogen, this is going to come as +3. So from this, what we are going to generalize is that the ic acids, they are going to have a higher oxidation state than the us acid. And in fact, it is not going to be only for the oxo acids that we use this principle. Even for the naming of the elements, we use it. I hope you all know that iron, this has an oxidation state of +3 and +2 in the ferric and ferrous. So again, it is ic that is +3 and us that is +2. Similarly, if we talk about tin, tin is available again in two forms, two oxidation states. It is stannic and stannous. So ic is going to be +4 and us is going to be +2. Similarly, we have lead to be plumbic and plumbous, mercury to be mercuric and mercurous. So in all of these, what you find is that ic is used for the higher oxidation state and us is used for the lower oxidation state. So for the oxy acids also, we use the same principle. Easy enough to remember now. From ferrous and ferric, you have been doing that from so long. So the ic acids, they are going to have a higher oxidation state than the us acid. Now the first thing that you are going to do in naming these oxo acids is going to be that you have to learn one thing. What do you have to learn? You have to learn the name and the formula for the parent ic acid. Okay, not even the us acid is going to be required. If you remember the name of the parent ic acid, well, you can derive the names and the formulas and also the structures, as you will be saying, from only the formula of the ic acid. Okay, now how you're going to remember the formulas for the ic acids for so many p block elements that you have seen? Well, here again we have one more trick for you, and the trick is that the parent ic acid is going to have the element in its highest oxidation state. Only where you are going to have not the ic acid in the highest oxidation state is going to be that of halogens. So for the halogens, the highest oxidation state is +7, but the ic form will be having an oxidation state of +5. Okay, so it is going to be very easy for you people to learn which is going to be the ic acid. Now let us see. So the first elements that you learned were the second period elements, boron, carbon and nitrogen, having the oxidation state +3, +4 and +5 to be the highest. So what are going to be the parent ic acids for these compounds? It is going to be H3BO3, that is boric acid for boron, H2CO3 carbonic acid for carbon, and for nitrogen it is going to be HNO3, that is nitric acid. A very easy trick to remember these names. Okay, if you look at these H3BO3, H2CO3, HNO3, what you can see is that from H3BO3 to H2CO3 there is one hydrogen that has been reduced, and from H2CO3 to HNO3 there is one nitrogen, this has been reduced. Right, so if you move the opposite way, because I know that you all know what is HNO3. So HNO3 +1, make it H2CO3, make it +1, you will be getting H3BO3, boric acid, carbonic acid and nitric acid. Now the ic acids for these three you have learnt. Let us see some more now. So we have silicon, phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine. So I have told you that these will be forming the ic acids in their highest oxidation state, except for chlorine, which is going to use +5 oxidation state in case of +7 for the ic acid. Alright, so let us see the ic acids for these also. We have silicic acid to be H4SiO4, phosphoric acid to be H3PO4, H2SO4 to be sulfuric acid, and here we are going to have HClO3, that is chloric acid. So if you find out the oxidation state, 3 into -2 is going to be -6, +1 is going to be +5 for chlorine. So this is going to be +5 and not +7. In the rest of these three, you will see that these elements, they are in their highest oxidation state. Now, which of these formulas do you know from your junior classes? Definitely H2SO4, you all remember. Right? So similar to the first three elements, just use the same principle here also in remembering the ic acids. right? So H2SO4, increase one hydrogen, you will be getting H3PO4. Increase one hydrogen, you will be getting silicic acid. And if you're going to decrease one hydrogen, what you will be getting is HClO4. So here you have to remember that this is not going to be HClO4, it is going to be HClO3. Okay, next let us see the other ones. So we have bromine to be HbRO3 bromic acid, and we have iodine to be HiO3 iodic acid. Even for the nitrogen family, the sulfur family, the formulas they are going to be just similar to phosphoric acid and sulfuric acid. So I hope now the ic acids, they are very easy for you people to remember, that all of these elements, they will be in the highest oxidation state except the halogens, which will be having +5 in their ic form. And if you just know one of them in the same period, just keep on reducing the number of hydrogens from going from left to right or from right to left, just increase one hydrogen. Okay, so done. Good. So now let us begin the learning of the oxo acids of phosphorus. First, I will be giving you a general plan where you can see the names of all the prefixes that we will be using for the oxy acids of phosphorus, and then we will be actually deriving the formulas for those compounds. Okay, and this plan that I'm going to give you for the various prefixes, well, this is going to be helpful for naming the oxo acids of other elements as well. So how are we going to start the naming? Well, we will be starting with the parent ic acid, because I told you, if you remember the formula of the parent ic acid, you will be able to derive the formulas for all the oxo acids. So the parent ic acid, if you subtract one oxygen atom from it, what you will be getting it as a parent us acid. And this is going to be true not only for the oxo acids of phosphorus, it is true for the oxo acids of any element. For example, just now you saw the example of nitric acid and nitrous acid. So nitric acid was HNO3 and nitrous acid -1 oxygen, that is HNO2. Right? So this is going to be true for nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, halogens, all of the oxo acids. So you have started learning the naming of the oxo acids of other elements as well over here, along with the learning of the oxo acids of phosphorus. All right. So now we have parent ic acid and the parent us acid. So these are the two suffixes that we will be using. For other oxo acids, what we will be using is now the prefixes for them. The ic and the us is going to remain in them. Alright, so now from the parent us acid, if I remove one oxygen, what I will be getting is a hypo us acid. Okay, so you have a parent us acid. From that removal of one oxygen, you will be getting a hypo us acid. And if you remove one water molecule from it, that is, you are going to reduce the number of hydrogens by 2 from the formula of the parent us acid, and the number of oxygen atoms by 1 from the formula of the parent us acid, what you will be getting is a meta us acid. And on the other side, well, you can subtract from the ic acid one H2O also. And what you will be getting is a meta ic acid, right? So meta ic is going to be -1 water from the ic acid, and meta us acid is -1 water from the parent us acid. Similarly, if you take two molecules of this parent us acid and subtract one H2O from that, what you will be getting is a pyro us acid. And this is also called as a di-us acid. And on the same way, the parent ic acid, if you just take two molecules of it and -1 H2O, what you will be getting is a pyroic acid or a diic acid. You're finding them difficult? Do not worry. I'm going to repeat everything once again with the actual formulas for phosphorus. So then it is going to be learnt by heart with you people. Do not worry at all. Just listen to the names because this is the first time you're learning them. Fine. Now, the next is that we have the parent ic acid. From this, when we are subtracting one oxygen, we got a parent us acid. So how will we get the hypoous acid for this? Well, we cannot do it because when we are removing one oxygen, it is the us acid. So where does the hypo go? Well, we will be talking about that also just now. But before that, what I want to do is I want to add one oxygen to this ic acid to give me another oxo acid. So parent ic acid plus one oxygen atom, what you will be getting is a peroxoic acid. And peroxo, I hope you all remember from hydrogen peroxide that peroxo is going to stand for a peroxy linkage. That means a O, single bond O bond is going to be present in the structure of a compound which has the name peroxo. Okay, so this is going to be peroxo when we have added one oxygen atom to the ic acid. Now let us talk about the hypoic acid. How are we going to name that? For that, well, because we cannot subtract the oxygen from the ic acid, what we will be doing is we will be subtracting one oxygen from the diic acid or the pyroic acid. So minus one oxygen from the pyroic acid, what you will be getting is the hypoic acid. And if to the pyroic acid you are going to add one oxygen, what you will be getting is the peroxodiic acid. Alright, so here also you will be saying that a peroxy linkage is going to be present. Right, so this is going to be peroxodiic acid, this is going to be peroxoic acid, or you can also call this as a peroxomonoic acid. Now let us see these again, once again, with the formulas for the oxo acids of phosphorus. So now let us derive the oxo acids of phosphorus with this plan that we have learned. So we will be starting with the parent ic acid. So what is going to be parent ic acid for phosphorus? It is going to be phosphoric acid with the formula H3PO4. And from the parent ic acid, if you want the parent us acid, what are you going to do? Minus one oxygen. So minus one oxygen from the ic acid, you get us acid, and from phosphoric acid H3PO4, one minus oxygen is going to be H3PO3. So that will be phosphorus acid. From phosphorus acid, we are going to subtract one oxygen to get hypophosphorus acid. So that is going to be H3PO2. Next, what did we do? We subtracted one water from the phosphorus acid. So one water minus is going to be H3 minus H2, one hydrogen left, one phosphorus and two oxygen. So that is going to be HPO2. So this will be called as metaphosphorus acid. And on similar side, we can remove one water from phosphoric acid to get metaphosphoric acid. So that is going to be HPO3. Here we have written a X in the footnote for this because this does not exist as a single monomer. It is going to exist as a polymeric unit of HPO3. Okay, so this is going to be HPO3X, not singly HPO3, not existing. Fine. All right. Next, what did we do? We multiplied this us acid by two molecules and then subtracted one water. So what this means is that you are going to multiply all the numbers of hydrogen, phosphorus and oxygen by 2. What you will be getting is H6, P2 and O6. And from this you will be subtracting two hydrogens and one oxygen. So what you will be getting is H4, P2O5. And what will be this called as? This will be called as the pyrrhous acid, that is H4P2O5, or it is going to be called as the diphosphorus acid. Alright, now similarly we can do this for phosphoric acid also, multiply that by 2 and subtract one water molecule from that. What you will be getting is pyrophosphoric acid with the formula H4P2O7. Alright, so this was H3 into 2, 6. 6 minus 2 is going to be H4. P into 2, so that is going to remain, so P2. Oxygen 4 into 2 is going to be 8. One oxygen gone, that will be O7. H4P2O7 is pyrophosphoric acid and also called as diphosphoric acid. Next, what did we do? We added one oxygen to phosphoric acid to get peroxophosphoric acid, right? So this is going to be peroxophosphoric acid H3PO5. All right, and here what are you going to see? You are going to see a peroxide linkage in the structures when we will be writing down the structures for these compounds. Now this is just one unit of phosphorus, so it is also called as peroxomonophosphoric acid also, or simply peroxophosphoric acid. Alright, next what did we do? Well, from the pyrophosphoric acid, we are going to subtract one oxygen, and we are going to add one oxygen to get two more oxo acids. So the first one, when we are going to subtract one oxygen, is going to be hypodiphosphoric acid now, right? So this is going to be hypophosphoric acid, that is H4P2O6. Fine. So we simply called it as hypophosphoric acid. We do not use di, but you just have to remember that it is not from one molecule of phosphoric acid that we are removing an oxygen atom. When we remove just one, you will be getting phosphorus acid. And next, when we are going to add one oxygen atom, what we will be getting is a peroxo diphosphoric acid. Okay, so peroxo or peroxy diphosphoric acid, and the formula for this is going to be H4P2O8. Clear? Perfect. I hope no problems in learning this. So we have, just let us repeat it quickly, that we have phosphoric acid H3PO4. When we are going to minus one oxygen H3PO3, this will be called as phosphorus acid. Minus one oxygen hypophosphorus acid H3PO2. Minus one water, you will be getting metaphosphorus acid HPO2. Two molecules minus one water is going to be pyrophosphorus acid H4P2O5. This is also called as diphosphorus acid. Phosphoric acid side, when you're going to remove one water, you will be getting metaphosphoric acid. Removing two molecules, you will be getting pyrophosphoric acid or diphosphoric acid. Add one oxygen, you will be getting peroxomonophosphoric acid. And from the pyro, when you're going to subtract one oxygen, you will be getting hypo. And when you're going to add one oxygen, it is going to be peroxodiphosphoric acid. Right? I hope now all the names and the formulas, you can write it out yourself. So now my request to you would be that please do make this flowchart 2-3 times so that you can memorize this very well. And if in the examination you are asked the formula for any of the oxo acids of phosphorus, you can quickly retrieve the flowchart and write down the name. But now if the opposite is being done, opposite is being asked to you in the examination. For example, if I ask you what is going to be the name of H4P2O5 or what is the name of H4P2O8, will you be able to do that very quickly? Well, I'm not very sure of, because the way we have learned this flowchart, it is from the name to the formula. So what you will be doing is that you will be writing down all these names till you get to that formula that has been asked in the examination, and that will take a lot of time. So my suggestion to you is follow one more trick for a quick retrieval of the names of the compounds also. And what is going to be the trick? What you will be doing is, whatever formula is given to you, find out the oxidation state of the central atom. In this case, it is obviously going to be phosphorus. So write down the oxidation state of phosphorus in these oxo acids. All right. Now, so the trick says that if we have the highest oxidation state of the central atom, let that be X, then the parent acid will be having the highest oxidation state, that is, it will be having the oxidation state as X. But there can be other compounds also which will be showing the same oxidation state. For example, it can be dioic acid also. This will be showing the highest oxidation state, and metaic acid, this will also be showing the highest oxidation state. All right. So how are you going to differentiate between these three? The parent acid will be having one phosphorus atom, di will be having two phosphorus atom, and meta, you will be able to see one common integer in hydrogen, phosphorus and oxygen. For example, H3P3O9, you are able to see what? That 3 is common to hydrogen, phosphorus and oxygen. So HPO3 thrice. So whenever there is going to be some common integer, it is going to be metaic acid. Okay. Now, the next we have is the us acid. So just remember for the us acid, because you are losing one oxygen, so the oxygen, you can remember that it has an oxidation state of -2. So just go -2 below. Okay, so if this is X, this is going to be X -2, and similarly the di-us acid, this will also be having X -2 oxidation state. Here there will be one central atom, here there will be two central atoms, easy enough. All right, now we can see the peroxy compounds. So peroxy compounds, what you will be seeing is that the oxidation state will be always greater than the highest oxidation state that we have for the compound. So what you're going to do is, whenever there is going to be oxidation state greater than this highest one, see the number of atoms. If the central atom is 1, it is going to be peroxo mono compound, and if it is going to be 2 central atoms, it is going to be peroxo di compound. Okay. The next we have is the hypo compounds. So for the hypo-us acid, it is going to be even one more oxygen less. So it is going to be 2 oxidation state further less, so it is going to be X -4, and for the hypoic acid it is going to be X -1. So ic acid was having the oxidation state as X, the us acid was having the oxidation state as X -2. In between these two you find the hypoic acid. So this is the trick that you can use. So let us write the names of these oxo acids from the formulas. So this is the list of the oxo acids of phosphorus, and I would want you all to write down quickly the oxidation state of the central atom in this case, and what is going to be the name of the oxy acid. Once you have done that, we are going to discuss it. So you can pause the lecture over here, write down, and then check the solutions. So now you can check the answers also if you have written. So we have first of all H3PO2. So this is X -4. All right. So this is +1, 4 less than the highest oxidation state. So this is going to be hypophosphorus acid. Okay, then we have H3PO3 +3. So 2 oxidation state less than the highest one. So this is going to be phosphorus acid. And then you can also see that +3 oxidation state we have for H4P2O5. So this is going to be having 2 phosphorus atoms, so it is going to be diphosphorus acid or pyrophosphorus acid. Then we have H3PO4. It is having +5 oxidation state, so this is going to be 1 phosphorus atom with highest, so phosphoric acid. You can see 2 more compounds with +5 oxidation state, H4P2O7, 2 phosphorus atoms, nothing in common. So you can say that this is going to be diphosphoric acid or pyrophosphoric acid. And when you are going to see this over here also +5, H4P4O12. So you can see a common factor of 4 in this, again HPO3 4 times, right? So this is going to be metaphosphoric acid. Okay, I hope now this is clear to you. Now the next word you can see is +7 over here and +6 over here. These are oxidation states higher than the highest oxidation state of phosphorus. So both of these compounds, these are going to be peroxy compounds. So H3PO5, 1 phosphorus atom, so it is going to be peroxo monophosphoric acid. And this is where it is gone, yeah, H4P2O8 +6, this is going to be peroxo diphosphoric acid. Clear? What is left? Only +4, which is going to be in between the ic and the us acid. So it is going to be hypophosphoric acid. Less than phosphoric acid, greater than phosphorus acid. Just remember, it is going to be hypophosphoric acid. Okay, so I think now this is very clear to you. Very quickly, in a fraction of a second, you are able to opt for the correct answer. Good enough. Now, after the naming of these compounds, the next thing is drawing the structures for these oxo acids, which the students find really difficult, and they do not, in fact, attempt questions where the structures for these oxo acids have to be drawn. But well, when you have learnt this lecture with us, you are going to draw the structure of any oxo acid in just 5 seconds. Right? So let us learn how we are going to do that. So here you are going to learn first of all certain features of the oxo acids of phosphorus, which you have to remember and which is going to be very helpful for you for drawing the structures. So the first thing that you have to remember is that for each phosphorus atom in the oxy acid, there are going to be 5 bonds. So each phosphorus will be making 5 bonds. If it is one phosphorus atom in the molecule, it is going to make 5 bonds. If there are going to be 2 phosphorus atoms, each of the 2 will be making 5 bonds each. That is very important for you to remember. And out of these 5 bonds, it is going to utilize 3 bonds in the making of one P double bond O and one POH group. So 3 bonds already utilized. 3 bonds you already know that each phosphorus is going to make, and what you have to just learn is going to be 2 more bonds that it is going to make in each oxo acid. And for that also I'm going to give you a very quick trick, so that is going to be very easy to learn. Now one thing before we move further in the structure learning is that this POH bond, this is going to be very important, because as I told you at the start of the lecture also, these are oxy acids which are going to release H ions into solution, which is responsible for the acidic character. Right, so this POH bond is going to be very important. So when you're going to draw the structures, please do have a notice of this, because this POH is going to be ionizable, giving proton, and this is going to determine the basicity of the oxo acid, or this is going to determine the acidic character of these oxo acids. I will be talking more about it once we've drawn the structures and we are discussing the properties. Fine. Now we have utilized out of the 5 bonds, 3 bonds in making a P double bond O and one POH. So that means 2 more bonds, and those 2 bonds, they are going to be sigma bonds for each phosphorus. So each phosphorus is going to be surrounded by 4 groups of atoms, and they are going to be tetrahedrally arranged around the phosphorus, right? So there are going to be 4 sigma bonds around phosphorus. The hybridization is going to be sp3, and sp3 hybridization is a tetrahedral geometry. So the oxo acids, they contain the phosphorus atom, or if there are going to be more atoms, all of these phosphorus atoms, they are going to be bonded tetrahedrally to 4 other groups of atoms, right? So if you look over here, what you can see is that in each oxo acid, P double bond O essential condition, POH essential condition. The other 2 bonds, they are going to be sigma bonds. All the 4 groups, they are going to be having a tetrahedral arrangement around each phosphorus. And this OH group, this is the one which is going to ionize into the anion and H positive, giving us the acidic character of these oxo acids. So these were the features which will be present in all the oxo acids of phosphorus, but along with that, there are certain features which you will be able to see in a few of the oxo acids. So the first what you will be able to see in some oxo acids is that there are going to be present 1 or more pH bonds. Now this pH bond, this is going to be very, very important, because this hydrogen which is directly attached to the phosphorus atom, this is not going to be ionizable. And it is going to be responsible for the reducing properties of the oxo acids. Again, I will be talking more about this when we talk about the properties, but please, when we are drawing the structures, just keep a notice of the POH bonds and the pH bonds. These are going to be very, very important. Many questions, they are being framed from these. Alright, now the next what you can also see in some of the oxo acids is a POP bond or a PP bond, when there are going to be 2 phosphorus atoms present in a molecule, and these bonds, they will be obtained by the corner sharing of a tetrahedra. So this is going to be present at one of the corners for each phosphorus tetrahedra. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a POP bond formed like this. Another thing which you will be able to see in the oxo acids is the presence of a POOP bond, which is going to be called as the peroxy linkage, because of the presence of this oxygen-oxygen single bond. Okay, so this is again going to be one very important thing that you will have to remember and notice in the structures. Now, there are so many things that you have to draw. There are so many things that you have to notice. How are you going to do that? Well, that is going to be really, really very simple. Trust me. When we are going to just now draw them, it is going to not take you a fraction of a minute to understand what is going to be the concept. So let us learn more about the drawing of these structures. So now the first structures that we will be drawing are going to be those where we will be having only one phosphorus atom. And for this, what are the points that you have to remember? Number one, the arrangement of the atoms surrounding phosphorus is going to be a tetrahedral arrangement, because phosphorus, this is going to be sp3 hybridized, right? Each phosphorus is going to make 5 bonds, and out of these there is going to be one p double bond O and one POH bond. So this is how the arrangement is going to be for these 2 bonds, and remaining you have to make 2 more bonds. All right. So what this means is that each oxy acid is going to have at least one HPO unit, one hydrogen, 2 oxygen and 1 phosphorus. All right. So the trick now when you're going to draw these structures is that you are going to subtract this HPO unit from the formula of the oxy acid for easy drawing. What this means is, supposedly you have to draw H3PO2. So subtract minus HPO2, subtract HPO2 from this, and what you will be getting is H2, right? So you have to put 2 hydrogen atoms over here. So this is going to be easy. Put one here and the other over here. All right. If there is going to be H3PO3, subtract HPO2, what you will be getting is H2O, and then it is going to be H3PO4, what you will be getting is H2O2, and for H3PO5, what you will be getting on subtraction is H2O3. So these are what you have to fit in into these 2 bonds which are vacant. So let us fill them now. So Hp3O2, as we've already discussed, we have 2 hydrogens. So just put 1 hydrogen at one bond and the other at the other. Next we have H3PO3. So here we require 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So one OH is the bond that we will be putting, and one will be the H, right? So this will be finishing our H2O. Next we have H3PO4. So we need 2 hydrogens, 2 oxygen, put them as the 2 OH groups. So that is how the structure is. And next we have H3PO5. So now there is going to be one more oxygen, right? So if you're going to make it H2O2, this is H3PO4, and this satisfies all the valencies of phosphorus. So where are you going to put this extra oxygen? Well, you are going to put it as the extra peroxide linkage. So you've already seen the higher oxidation state in case of H3PO5, that we have phosphorus to be in the +7 oxidation state, and when the oxidation state is going to be greater than even the highest oxidation state, what you will be getting is the peroxide linkage, and you are going to insert this extra oxygen anywhere between the POH bond, either at this bond or at this, that is not going to matter. Okay, so I hope these structures, they are very easy. Great. So next we have those oxoaces where we are going to have 2 phosphorus atoms. So here again what you are going to remember, that each phosphorus is going to be surrounded by a 4 group tetrahedron. Again, each phosphorus is therefore going to be sp3 hybridized only, and each phosphorus will be having a HPO2 unit. That means one OH bond with the phosphorus and one double bonded oxygen with the phosphorus, and therefore when we have 2 phosphorus atoms, it is going to be H2P2O4 that you are going to have always for the 2 phosphorus atoms, right? So this is how you're going to just draw first of all the 2 phosphorus with one P double bond O and one OH. Okay, and then we have to fill in the rest of the bonds and satisfy the valencies of phosphorus. So there again the trick is going to be that you will be subtracting now H2P2O4 from the chemical formula of the oxoacid for easy drawing. So let us do that. So we have first of all H4P2O5. When you're going to subtract H2P2O4 from it, what you will be getting is water. Right, so it is going to be not water, it is going to be 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Okay, and then we are going to have H4P2O6. It is going to be minus H2P2O4. So what you will be getting is 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens. Then it is going to be 2 hydrogens and 3 oxygens, and lastly H4P2O8 is going to be H2O4. So that means 2 hydrogens and 4 oxygens. Now what is going to be the problem that you will be facing is that in case of 2 phosphorus atoms, there can be a PP linkage, there can be a POP linkage, there can be a POOP linkage also. So there are different varieties of things which can be present between these 2 phosphorus now. Okay, so that you do not face any difficulty, what you are going to do is you are going to find out the oxidation state of phosphorus in these compounds, the compound whichever you have to draw. All right, so the oxidation state in H4P2O5 is going to be +3, in H4P2O6 is going to be +4, in 7 it is going to be 5, and in 8 it is going to be +6. So these are the oxidation states that you will be writing down, whichever compound is going to come to you in the examination. Now how is this oxidation state going to help you in writing down the structure? So the trick for finding whether it is going to be a PP linkage, a POP linkage, or a POOP linkage, that is a peroxy linkage that is going to be present, is that you are going to see whether the oxidation state is going to be either less than or equal to the highest oxidation state of phosphorus, that is it is either less than or equal to +5 oxidation state. Okay, if it is the case, then you're going to look at the number of oxygen atoms present in the formula of the compound, whether it is odd or it is even. If it is going to be odd, it is going to be a POP linkage that will be present, and if it is going to be even, it is going to be a PP linkage that will be present, and that will make writing down the structure really very easy. What is left behind? A POOP linkage. So just remember that the peroxo acids, either they have a POOH linkage or a POOP linkage, and it is going to be present when the oxidation number that you will be calculating from the formula, this comes higher than the highest oxidation state of phosphorus, as you have already done the structure of H3PO5, where you found that the oxidations number for phosphorus was coming up as +7. So it was higher than +5, therefore we put up a peroxy linkage. Similarly, if we have a compound, we have an oxy acid of phosphorus where there are going to be 2 phosphorus atoms present and the oxidation state is higher than +5, there also we will be putting a POOP linkage. Okay, so let us do that now. So now using these tricks, let us draw the oxo acids containing 2 phosphorus atoms. The first one we will be drawing is going to be H4P2O5. So what are you going to subtract over here? It is going to be H2P2O4. And what are you going to get? You're going to get 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen atom. You have to write down the oxidation state for each of the compounds. So here it is going to be +3. Okay, so now this is +3. So what are you going to mean by this? It means that we have the oxidation state to be within the normal range. It is less than +5. Okay, so then you're going to see the number of oxygen atoms present in the compound. This is an odd number because this is 5. So the linkage that we will be having is a POP linkage. Okay, so how are you going to draw the structure? For each phosphorus, 1 P double bond O and 1 POH bond both sides. Then you are going to make a POP linkage. This is going to utilize one of the oxygens that is present. So what is going to be left behind is the 2 hydrogens. So you are going to put that on either side for each phosphorus atom. Easy enough, no problem in drawing it. Great. Let us draw the next one. So we have H4P2O6. So the answer that you will be getting after subtracting the common unit is going to be H2O2. So 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens, and the oxidation state for phosphorus is going to be +4. Again, this oxidation state is within the normal range, and the number of atoms in the number of oxygen atoms is going to be even number. So this is going to be what linkage? A PP linkage. So you are going to draw that PP linkage, and after drawing the P double bond O and POH, what is going to be left behind is 1 bond for 2 phosphorus, where you are going to give 1 oxygen and 1 hydrogen, completing H2O2. Perfectly clear? Good. Let us see the next one now. So we have H4P2O7. So here what are you going to be left behind with? H2 and O3, and the oxidation state is +5. +5 means that again this is within the normal range. It is the highest oxidation state of phosphorus. So the linkage that you will be drawing is going to be a POP linkage, because the number of oxygen atoms is odd. Okay, so again draw that POP linkage, and after you draw that, 1 oxygen will be consumed. Again you will be left with 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens, so you will be putting a OH on this side and a OH on this side. Great, easy enough. You can draw the structure within just 5 seconds. Good. So the next and the last one is going to be H4P2O8, and here what you will be left behind with is H2 and O4, and the oxidation state is +6. +6 means this is above the normal range. It is more than the highest oxidation state. So what is the linkage that we will be drawing? It will be a POOP linkage. So when you're going to do that, 2 oxygens will be utilized. So what will you be left behind with? 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens. So they will come as the OH groups to the 2 phosphorus, right? So please do remember, very importantly, that the oxo acids which have the peroxy linkage, it is very frequently asked in the examination. It is going to be H3PO5 and H4P2O8. So there is one more structure that is left in all these oxo acids of phosphorus, and that is going to be metaphosphoric acid. Metaphosphorus acid, we are not going to talk more about that because that is not given in the curriculum for class 11th and 12th. Alright, so metaphosphoric acid, if you all remember, it was H3PO4 phosphoric acid minus 1 water molecule, that we got metaphosphoric acid. So what you get is HPO3, right? But it does not exist as a single monomer. It is always going to exist as a polymer. It is going to either exist as a cyclic structure in the polymeric compound, or it is going to exist as a straight line structure. Let me show you the 2 structures first of all. Okay, so this is 2. We see that when we are going to have 3 of these metaphosphoric units, we are going to see a cyclic structure which is called as trimetaphosphoric acid, or it is also called as cyclometaphosphoric acid. So how are you going to draw this structure? Let us understand, because this is important. It has been asked many times in the examinations. Okay, so what we are going to do is again follow the same principles. When you're going to start with 1 phosphorus, okay, you have HPO3. Let us go back over here only. What are you going to minus from this? You are going to minus the basic unit, that is HPO2, and what you will be left behind is going to be 1 oxygen. Okay, so when you're going to start with this phosphorus, you will be putting a P double bond O and a POH, and you will be putting 1 oxygen and 1 valency of phosphorus. This is going to lie vacant. Okay, so let it be vacant for 1 minute. Fine. So next what are we going to do is make 1 more phosphorus unit, because it is going to be going in the ring. So you just put it in such a way that it goes into the ring. Fine. So we are going to have again a P double bond O, a OH, and this oxygen. Now again this phosphorus is also having this valency to be vacant. So what will be happening is this oxygen over here, this is going to donate its lone pair of electrons as a coordinate bond with phosphorus. So this is the bond that is formed over here, that is going to be a coordinate bond. So this is how you are going to draw this. This is going to be a coordinate bond, then this is going to be a coordinate bond, and then this is going to be a coordinate bond. Okay, so this is how you draw the cyclic structure. Here generally the question they are asked is how many sigma bonds are present, how many pi bonds are present between oxygen and phosphorus, how many bonds are present. So varied number of questions this can be asked. Okay, next we have is the straight line structure, there's a straight line structure also. You can see that it is going to be, when it is going to be a number of the monomeric units is going to be more, generally we see the straight line structure. So again the principle is going to be same, that you have to draw at least one P double bond O and one OH. There will be one oxygen it has, and the other one is going to be a coordinate bond. Okay, so that is as far as the structures they are concerned. So I hope already told you lot many tricks in today's lecture, so that you can write the names of the compounds, the formulas of the compounds, and the structures of the compounds. Now what is left behind in this discussion on the oxoacids of phosphorus is the preparation and a little bit more about the properties that we were discussing while we were writing the general structural features, right? So let us look at the preparation and the properties of these oxoacids also, so that the complete discussion is with you people. So the first we will be discussing is the preparation of the oxoacids of phosphorus, and the first one here we will be discussing is phosphoric acid, which is also called as orthophosphoric acid. So this is the parent ic acid. It is going to be H3PO4. So I hope you all remember, this is where we started the journey of these oxoacids of phosphorus with. So now, how are we going to prepare phosphoric acid? The first reaction that we can use is going to be the hydrolysis of phosphorus pentaoxide, that is P2O5. But here, why have we written P4O10? Because it always exists as a dimer. So it is going to be P4O10 on hydrolysis. This is going to produce H3PO4. Another reaction which we can use to prepare phosphoric acid is going to be the hydrolysis of PCl5. Okay, phosphorus pentachloride. So phosphorus pentachloride on hydrolysis is going to produce H3PO4, and along with that it is going to produce HCl, and HCl, this is going to be produced as a gas, and it is going to be appearing as white fumes. So please very importantly remember certain information about this reaction, which can be asked a lot times in the examination. Okay, so we have PCl5 to be a yellowish white powder. It, in the presence of moist air, is going to get hydrolyzed to POCl3. This is going to be an intermediate compound which is formed in the reaction. This POCl3, this is called as phosphoryl chloride, but commonly this is called as phosphorus oxychloride. So phosphorus, oxy and chloride. Okay, so this is POCl3, which further gets converted into phosphoric acid, giving white fumes of HCl. So the reaction incomplete is going to be PCl5 plus water forming POCl3 and 2HCl, and POCl3 further on hydrolysis is going to produce H3PO4 and 3HCl. Summing up this, what you will be getting is PCl5 plus 4 water, POCl3 will cancel, and you will be getting along with that H3PO4 and 5 HCl. So HCl is going to produce white fumes. Then another reaction that we can use for the preparation of phosphoric acid is P4 plus 20HNO3, which is going to produce 4H3PO4 plus 20NO2 plus 4 water. This is a reaction that you are not going to see written in the preparation of phosphorus in your NCERT textbook. So am I teaching you something extra? No, not at all. This reaction of PCl5 is given in the phosphorus pentachlorides. All right, and this reaction is a reaction which is given in the reactions of nitric acid. So all the reactions, they are important. In fact, I'm just making the work easy for you people, compiling wherever the name phosphoric acid was generated, putting them together for you people. Okay. So the next one is phosphorus acid, that is H3PO4 minus 1O. So H3PO3, and it is also called as phosphonic acid. Please do remember this, because if phosphonic acid is written in the examination and you do not know what is phosphonic acid, your whole study is going to go a waste. Right? So this is prepared in reactions which are very much similar to H3PO4. First of all, we are going to prepare it by the hydrolysis of PCl3 with acid or steam. So PCl3 plus water is going to produce H3PO3 plus HCl. For H3PO4, it was PCl5. Similarly, we have another reaction P4O6 on reacting with water. This is going to produce H3PO3. In the previous one, what you did was it was P4O10. So the reactions, they are just similar to the ones that you have done for phosphoric acid. So there is one question for you people. Why does PCl3 fume in moisture? So this is moisture over here. So moisture in air, PCl3 can react to produce phosphorus acid, and along with that white fumes of HCl, they are produced. So the similar question can be asked for PCl5 also. The next acid that we study is hypophosphorus acid. This is H3PO2, and this we are going to obtain by reacting white phosphorus with concentrated NaOH solution in an inert atmosphere of carbon dioxide. So please do remember it is going to be white phosphorus, because when we are going to study about for hypophosphoric acid, it is going to be red phosphorus. Okay, so white is going to be hypophosphorus acid and red phosphorus is going to give us hypophosphoric acid. Just remember this. So white phosphorus on reaction with an alkali like NaOH, this is going to give us PH3, that is phosphine gas. I'll just talk about this more also, and then it is going to be also along with that being produced sodium hypophosphite, that is NaH2PO2. So this is the sodium salt of hypophosphorus acid. I know what your question is going to be. How are we going to get hypophosphorus acid from sodium hypophosphite? So here what you have to remember is sodium hypophosphite is going to change into hypophosphorus acid by cation exchange. So I hope you all remember your study of hydrogen and its compounds, where you studied about the softening of water by ion exchange. So that is the principle that we will be using over here to exchange the sodium ions with hydrogen ions. Cation exchange. All right, and one more thing that you have to remember is about this PH3. This is very important. This is phosphine gas. This is a colorless gas which has a rotten fish smell, and it is highly poisonous. So do study more about this. So along with hypophosphorus acid, let us do the hypophosphoric acid also. So hypophosphoric acid is going to be H4P2O6, which is, how did we obtain it? I hope you all remember. Pyrophosphoric acid minus 1 oxygen gave us hypophosphoric acid. So H4P2O6, this is red phosphorus on reaction with an alkali. This is going to give us pyrophosphoric acid. Okay, so white is hypophosphorus and red is going to be hypophosphoric. This is what you have to remember. Next we have is metaphosphoric acid, that is going to be HPO3, and it's going to be in the polymeric form. That is what you have to remember, right? So how are we going to obtain it? It is going to be H3PO4, that is phosphoric acid. When we are going to heat it at a high temperature of 525 Kelvin, we are going to get metaphosphoric acid, and along with that, what is going to go out is going to be one molecule of water. We can also obtain metaphosphoric acid by the reaction of phosphorus acid with bromine in a sealed test tube. Do remember this, in a sealed test tube, this is going to be very, very important. Right? So in a sealed test tube, H3PO3 on reaction with bromine is going to produce metaphosphoric acid. Along with that, HBr is going to be produced. So next we are just left with now two more preparations that we have to do according to your curriculum. So that will be pyrophosphorus acid and pyrophosphoric acid. The peroxy compounds we will not be preparing, and metaphosphorus acid, as I've already told you, we will not be discussing that. Fine. So the pyrophosphorus acid, it is H4P2O5, and the reaction for that is going to be PCl3 plus H3PO3. This will give us H4P2O5, and along with that phosphorus oxychloride POCl3 will be obtained. The next we have is pyrophosphoric acid H4P2O7, and this is going to be easy for you, because if you remember how we derived the chemical formula for this, the reaction is also going to be the same. So we had taken 2 moles of phosphoric acid and removed one water molecule to get H4P2O7. So this is what is the reaction. We are going to heat 2 moles of H3PO4 at a high temperature of 525 Kelvin when we are going to get H2P2O7 and one water molecule goes out. So high heating water molecule goes out. Okay. So next we discuss the properties of the oxoacids of phosphorus, and the properties that we will be discussing here are the ones which are going to be asked very frequently in the examination. So the first property we are going to discuss is the basicity of the oxoacids. And what is basicity? I hope you all know that this is the number of ionizable H ions. How many H ions can go into the solution when the oxoacids they are going to dissociate, right? So this is going to be dependent upon how many hydrogen atoms they are attached to the oxygen atom as the OH group, because these are the ones which are going to be easily ionizable because of the electronegativity difference between hydrogen and oxygen, as we have already discussed, right? So this means that the basicity of these oxoacids, this is going to be equal to the number of OH groups which are going to be present. For example, if we talk about H3PO2, this has one POH bond. This means that this is going to be monobasic. If there are going to be two OH bonds, this oxoacid is going to be dibasic. If there are going to be three OH bonds, then it is going to be tribasic, and so on. Right. Now one more thing, the term that is going to be used along with monobasic is going to be monoprotic, diprotic, triprotic, etc., which means number of protons which can be released into the solution. So monoprotic is going to be that one H ion, diprotic is 2 H ions, triprotic is 3 Ns. So this is also very frequently asked in the examination, so you should be able to know that. So now I want you to look at these three acids, H3PO2, H3PO3 and H3PO4. Hypophosphorus acid, phosphorus acid and phosphoric acid. And what I want you to think about is how we are going to compare the acidic strength of these acids, which is going to be the strongest, which is going to be the weakest acid of these three. Well, what you have just now studied is that all the hydrogen atoms which are attached to the oxygen atom, they are easily ionizable. So what this means is H3PO2, we are going to get 1 H ion per molecule. Here we will be getting 2 H ions per molecule, and here we will be getting 3 H ions per molecule. So what this means is more is going to be the number of H ions that are going to be released into the solution. Stronger is going to be the acid, and the order should be this way. Right? So strongest acid should be phosphoric acid, and weakest out of these three should be hypophosphorus acid. But what we find experimentally what was measured was the pKa values for these compounds. You do not need to remember the pKa values for this, but I'm just giving you the understanding. What we found was that the pKa values, this was the lowest for H3PO2. Okay, and when the pKa value is less, what this means is that the acid is going to be stronger. Okay, lesser is the pKa value, stronger is the acid. So what this means is the order that we were thinking, this is not correct. This is going to be the order of the acidic strength of these three acids. Now how do we explain this? For the explanation of this, what was understood was that here in these oxoacids we have a P double bond O, and the oxygen of this P double bond O, this is electron withdrawing, so it is going to pull the electrons from here. Okay. So hydrogen is going to give its electrons to oxygen, and the electrons, they are being pulled by the P double bond O oxygen. So what this means is that this breaking of the bond, this is going to become much more easier because of the presence of this P double bond O. Now in all the three acids, we have the same number of P double bond O, that is 1. But now what you can see is here we have one OH group, here we have two OH groups, and here we have three OH groups. So the pulling effect or the electron withdrawing effect of this oxygen is going to be the maximum over here when we have just one OH group. It is just like one person is pulling one person, or one person is pulling two persons, or one person is pulling three persons. So obviously when one person has to pull just one, it is going to be much more easier than when we have to pull three people. So therefore what we find is that the pKa values for H3PO2, this came to be lower in comparison to H3PO4. Alright, so what do we conclude from this? The order of the acidic strength of these three acids is going to be H3PO2 is going to be the strongest, then H3PO3, and then H3PO4. And in general, if you have to compare the oxo acids of phosphorus, which one is going to be more acidic, there is one more trick that you can use, and the trick is going to be to find out the ratio of the P double bond O by POH bonds. What I mean is, here we have one P double bond O divided by 1. Here it is going to be 1 by 2. Here it is going to be 1 by 3. And greater is going to be the ratio, the stronger will be the acid. As you can see here, it is going to be the largest ratio, then it is going to be 1 by 2, 1 by 3. So this is going to be the order. This way you can compare the oxo acids of phosphorus, all if there are different choices that is given to you. So that ways also you can compare the acidic strength of these oxo acids. Now these oxo acids, they can also be asked to compare the acidic strength with when the elements, they are going to be different. They are not going to be same phosphorus. The element is going to vary. In that case also you may have to compare the acidic strength, but well, that is not what I'm going to discuss today. We will be taking up a separate lecture to compare the oxo acids in the period, in the group, and so on. The next property we have is the reducing character. So the reducing character, also I told you that the hydrogen atom which is directly attached to the phosphorus as the pH bond, this imparts reducing properties to the oxy acid. These pH bonds, they do not ionize to give H ions, hence they do not play any role in the basicity or the acidic strength of the compound. So for example, if you look again at H3PO2, here you can see that it has two pH bonds. So this is going to be reducing in nature. Why is it going to be reducing in nature? Let us understand this also. You generally not find this answer why pH bonds, they are reducing in nature. So let us understand this. You should have a complete understanding of each concept. Just do not mug up things. So the reducing character of the pH bonds, this is because of the slight electronegativity difference between hydrogen and phosphorus. Hydrogen, this has an electronegativity value of 2.20, whereas phosphorus, it has a value of 2.19. It's not much of a difference, but still the electronegativity of hydrogen is greater than that of phosphorus. So in the pH bond, phosphorus will be having +1 oxidation state, whereas hydrogen will be having a -1. I am referring to only the pH bond. Alright, not the whole compound, what is going to be the oxidation state. Just looking at this bond, the hydrogen is the one which is going to be pulling the electrons towards itself. So it is going to be -1 oxidation state for hydrogen and +1 for phosphorus. Okay, and whenever, just remember that hydrogen is going to be in the negative oxidation state, it is going to be highly reducing in nature because it can easily get oxidized to the +1 oxidation state. For example, you just now see H3PO2, it has two pH groups there, right? So here this H3PO2, this acts as a reducing agent in the reaction of AgNO3 to silver. Alright, so H3PO2 plus AgNO3 plus water, this is going to give us silver plus H3PO4 and HNO3. So here the oxidation state of silver is going to be +1 and here it is going to be 0. So +1 to 0, this means this is a reduction reaction because there is a decrease in the oxidation number. Fine. And who is going to be acting as the reducing agent? It is going to be H3PO2, which is getting oxidized to H3PO4. So H3PO2 is getting converted into H3PO4. So here you can see the structure of H3PO2, and also you can see the structure of H3PO4. In H3PO2, what you can see is that there are two pH bonds and one POH bond, whereas in H3PO4 we have three POH bonds. So what we can conclude from this is that in H3PO2 there were two pH bonds which got converted into two POH bonds in H3PO4. So the reducing properties of the oxoacids, well, this is going to be dependent upon these pH bonds which are getting converted into the POH bonds. More is going to be the number of these pH bonds, well, more is going to be the reducing character of these oxyacids. So please do remember, more the number of pH bonds, more shall be the reducing nature of oxoacids. H3PO2, this has two POH bonds, so this is going to be a good reducing agent, whereas H3PO4, this does not have any pH bond, so this means this is going to be non-reducing in nature. And if I put here H3PO3, what it would mean is that would be having one pH bond, so it is going to come in between these two in the reducing capacity. Now one more thing which I want you to remember related to the properties of phosphorus acid, these oxoacids, is that we have H3PO4 to be having a high viscosity and high boiling point. So you can be asked why. And well, what you have to remember is in H3PO4 we have these three OH bonds. And OH bond means that we have a electropositive hydrogen attached to a strongly electronegative oxygen, and this hydrogen, well, this is going to be capable of hydrogen bonding. So when we are going to have H3PO4 in concentrated solutions, what we are going to see is a lot of hydrogen bonding, because of which there is going to be a high viscosity and high boiling point. High viscosity shown by a thick syrupy liquid that H3PO4 is, and boiling point values, obviously they are going to tell us about the high boiling point, that is because of the presence of hydrogen bonding. So do remember these hydrogen bonds which are being formed in the concentrated solutions of H3PO4. So all this properties discussion that we have done now, this is going to be very important, very frequently asked in the examination. So what is going to be the basicity of these oxoacids, whether they are reducing or not? I have put this into this table, and you can write down this table yourself by checking onto the structures of these compounds. So that is going to be your homework. Write down the structures and find out which is going to be tribasic, dibasic. You have to check the basicity, and also how many number of pH bonds they are going to be present, whether these compounds they are going to be reducing in nature, not reducing in nature, right? So for example, phosphoric acid H3PO4, this has three OH groups, so it is going to be tribasic, and because it does not have any pH group, it is going to be non-reducing. We have phosphorus acid having two OH groups, so it will be dibasic, and one pH group, so it will be reducing in nature. So the rest all I have written over here, so you can check with the structures, right? So peroxy phosphoric acid, it will be tribasic, non-reducing. Metaphosphoric acid will be monobasic. It does not have any pH bond, so this means it is going to be non-reducing in nature. Pyrophosphoric acid will be tetrabasic, non-reducing. Hypophosphorus acid, monobasic, two pH bonds, so reducing in nature. Pyrophosphorus acid will be dibasic, again reducing in nature. Hypophosphoric acid is tetrabasic and non-reducing, whereas peroxyphosphoric acid is tetrabasic and reducing depending upon the number of pH bonds which are going to be present. So please do remember this very well, how you find it out, and for that the structures, they should be very clear to you. One important thing which is left over here from the properties is the disproportionation reaction. What is a disproportionation reaction? It is that reaction in which a compound undergoes oxidation as well as reduction simultaneously. So we have H3PO3 undergoing a disproportionation reaction to give us H3PO4 plus PH3. So here what you can see is the phosphorus. This is in +3 oxidation state. When it is going to form H3PO4, it is going to be in +5 oxidation state, and in PH3, that is phosphine, it is going to be -3 oxidation state. So this is going to be a oxidation of H3PO3 and simultaneously a reduction taking place, a disproportionation reaction of phosphorus acid. Please do remember this very importantly. So finally, we come up to the end of this discussion where we are going to talk about the uses of the oxo acids of phosphorus. And when I say the uses of oxo acid, this is going to be essentially phosphoric acid only, because that is what is important for your examination. There are so many things that we can discuss. There is no limit to the discussion of inorganic chemistry. But well, we are going to learn what is in our curriculum. That is more than enough for us. All right. So when we say the use of phosphoric acid, the first use, a very important use, is that it is used in the preparation of HI and HBr as a substitute of H2SO4. Now, what do I mean by this? Actually, this is a concept which is more important to the discussion of sulfuric acid than phosphoric acid. But because this is important, I am talking about it here only with you. All right. So this is going to make you gain more marks in your examination. Fine. So what I mean over here is, supposedly if I have sodium chloride, I react this with H2SO4. What we will be getting is sodium sulfate in a two-step reaction. First of all, one hydrogen of H2SO4 will get replaced by sodium, and then the second step of the reaction where the other hydrogen will get replaced by sodium and Na2SO4 will be formed, and along with that what we will be getting is HCl. Similarly, I can write more one reaction for fluorine. Calcium fluoride reacts with H2SO4 to form calcium sulfate plus HF. So these are the reactions which are given in the NCERT textbook. Okay, so this is HF. All right. So what this means is we can use H2SO4 in the preparation of HCl. We can use H2SO4 in the preparation of HF. But we cannot use H2SO4 in the preparation of HI and HBr. And this is a question which is very frequently asked in the examination. Why? So here what you have to remember is, supposedly if I have NaBr, okay, I can have NaI also. All right, so NaBr, I react this with now H2SO4. What is going to be formed over here in the first step of the reaction is NaHSO4. And along with that, HBr is going to be formed. If it is going to be NaI, then HI will be formed. Now HBr and HI, they are strong reducing agents, and H2SO4, this is a strong oxidizing agent. And now you can see both of these, they are present in the reacting media, right? So what will happen is this H2SO4, this is going to react with HBr, and what will be formed is sulfur dioxide, okay, and bromine, and to complete the reaction some water. Okay, so H2SO4, this will get reduced by HBr to sulfur dioxide, and HBr, this will get oxidized by H2SO4 to Br2. So we are not getting HBr in the reaction. What we are getting is Br2. And similarly, it is going to be I2 that we will be getting in the reaction if we are going to use H2SO4 for the preparation of HI. So we will not be getting HI, HBr with reacting of the corresponding salts with H2SO4. So what is used as a substitute? Well, as a substitute, what we use is phosphoric acid, right? So we are going to take NaBr, react this with H3PO4. What we will be forming is sodium phosphate, and along with that HBr will be formed, or HI will be formed if you are going to take Na. So this is what this reaction means. This is the use of phosphoric acid in the preparation of HI and HBr. Please do remember this. This is frequently coming in the examinations. All right. So now the next use we have is this is added as a souring agent in the preparation of soft drinks. So this is the reason why your parents, your elders tell do not drink soft drinks, because that contains phosphoric acid and that is not good for your health. Used in the preparation of phosphate salts of sodium, potassium and ammonium. This is another use. And one more use which is very important is that this is used in the manufacture of phosphatic fertilizers. So these are a few of the uses of phosphoric acid which can be coming to you in the examination. Now, that brings me to the end of this lecture, and the next lecture, this is going to be a test lecture for you, where I am going to give you a set of questions which I have chosen from the previous year questions of JEE and NEET for the past 20 to 25 years, so that you can see what all questions they come in the examination and whether you have actually gained from this lecture or not, right? So please do revise your concepts that we have learned today, and then we are going to see how many questions you can get correct in the examinations. So see you again. Have a nice day. God bless you.